On to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to another transfer rumour debate. We're going to be debating another player that we think could be coming to Everton and whether we should sign him or not. In this case, Paul and I are going to be discussing the potential signing of Maxwel Cornet, who, of course, got relegated with Burnley last season. A winger, left-footed winger. It's one of those, I think we'll be linked with a lot of players from this position with Charlton leaving, but Maxwel Cornet, he's been linked for around 17 million. I think that's his release clause because Burnley went down. So, Paul, what's your take on Maxwel Cornet?
I like the look of him last season. He was the shining light, wasn't he, in that Burnley team that went down? And a lot of other years, that Burnley team wouldn't have gone down, would they? So it wasn't like he was playing in a diabolical team. So you can just assume, why would we want to play it out of a team that went down with a whimper? But Burnley certainly didn't go down with a whimper, did they?
They were only 1 point worse off than we are, so...
Not well. That aside, I thought that Burnley team just had a lot go against it in the end. You know, they lost Chris Wood in January. It was massive for them. They sacked the manager, which was still, I think, a really mad decision. I know they picked up some points under that interim coach, but I still think Dyche would have been better served just letting Dyche have it to the end of the year. But my point is, just because a team goes down, you can't automatically assume that every player who's in that team, you know, was part of the reason that they went down. Without Cornet, they'd have gone down weeks before. Andy was their top goal scorer, I think, was he? Did he get 9 in the Premier League?
Maybe. I think it was 9. Yeah.
9. I know he played about 26 games. He missed 12 through injury and through the African Cup of Nations. So his stats read pretty well. And he came to Burnley with a bit of a name as well. I remember being quite shocked when they managed to get him, thinking that's normally a signing I think would be above the likes of Burnley. Cornet, he was playing for Lyon, wasn't he, before that?
Yeah.
And he was kind of a name in the French league as well. He's one of these players where, this was a few years ago now, I'm sure everyone's had this, if you're someone who plays like online games like FIFA or Football Manager or anything of the sort, where you sign a player and he does really well for you, and then you kind of see him come to the Premier League in real life, and you're hoping, I really hope he doesn't like play really well against Everton because that means I have to start hating him. Cornet was one of them. Cornet was in one of my FIFA teams from like 4 or 5 years ago, and he was massive in it. So he was one of those players that went up to like 85, 86 rating, which
I never get excited about players who are like on FIFA or anything, because I had a brilliant career mode with Sandro.
Did you?
Before he came to Everton, so please don't ever take that seriously.
No, but I kind of looked into him a couple of years ago because he was doing well for me on FIFA. I kind of checked him out in real life, only a little bit. But he was considered very much a forward player. He was on the left or the right of front three type thing. Whereas at Lyon in the last year he was there, and with Burnley when he came to them as well, he sort of transitioned more into a wing-back role, sort of. He could still play as a forward player, but the last few years he's been mostly used as a wing-back in a back 3 or a back 5 type system for a lot of teams. And that looks like the formation that Frank Lampard's going to go with, isn't it? So I don't think he'd have any problems slotting in. It's just we're kind of we need a left wing back, I think, because I don't think that's the best way to get the best out of Michaelenko. But there's other positions that we really need to fill in the squad. Right winger being one of them. A right-sided player for the front 3, and would Cornet fill that? I mean, he can play there, I guess, but he's as you said, he's a left-footed, isn't he?
He played a large part of Burnley season there. It didn't really seem used in the left wing-back role that much, but I know
because they play a classic back 4, but there were times when he was stuck out on the left wing and he did a lot of tracking back. Maybe that's just because he's got a lot of energy, and unlike a lot of players, he can actually be bothered when he's out there. A forward player, that he actually will do the other side of the game as well when he has to. But the point is, he's left-footed, And when he played on the off the left for Burnley, he was just throwing crosses in the box and maybe looking to get on the end of crosses from the other side. Whereas if he plays for us and we stick him out on the right, he's going to be a left-footed right winger who's surely cuts in, like Richarlison was, and like Damari Gray it does on the other side for us, because he's a right-footed left winger, isn't he? So if Cornet comes, I'd be up for it, because, as you said, his release clause is 17.5 million, which I know we've got to be very, very careful with our money, but that's probably something we could afford for a player who's of his talent, and it could work out. He could come here, he could have a really good season, and then we could look to maybe move him on in a year or two and get 20 plus for him. You just don't know. But I like the look of Cornet. He's really, really rapid, isn't he? His goals for Burnley were there last week. It wasn't like he came in and he just scored 3 or 4 absolute belters, and then he had 15, 20 games where you never heard from him. He was always in any game that Burnley played well in. He was always at the front and centre of it all. So I'd rather take him over some of the other wingers that we've been linked with. And I do think he'd come in and kind of fit Everton's mould. He's a player who the fans will get behind because he is high energy, he is a runner, he is someone who's going to get on the board and look to scare the opposition by kind of getting up close with defenders. He's not going to be someone who stops and starts like a Wobie does, looks to take his time before he picks a pass, and fans can get a bit frustrated with that. I think he is just very, very direct, and that's what Evertonians like. So I like the sound of the signing, but if we're going to play, it just depends what the idea is for him. If we're just signing him because he's available and we can afford him, and because other people who we're looking at have knocked us back, then that would be disappointing. But I just think financially, for the talent level he's got, it does make a lot of sense.
For once, it does actually make a lot of sense, and for that reason, I'd be well for this one. I think he's he'd be the first sort of like left-footed winger we've had since getting rid of James. Like I think he's the only left-footed we'd have at that top end of the pitch. Because who else have we got?
I can't think of many left-footed players we've got in the squad. Can you?
Well, exactly. We were having a bit of murder with the whole. Obviously, there was Townsend, but like he's injured, and Mikalenko. I think that's it. Like there's is Godfrey right-footed? Is he? Godfrey's right-footed. There's Nkunku as well, but again, I don't know how far he's going to go with the first team. So,
yeah, and Nkunku's future's up in the air, isn't it?
So it's like it's all about, for me, getting more left-footers into this team, because we haven't got enough as it is, and that gives you more balance. And we always look a bit unbalanced because of that. I think we looked a lot better when James was in, obviously because James is an excellent player anyway, but also because he was left-footed and we didn't really have that before him or since him.
For years now, we've just been one-dimensional, haven't we, going forward? I think it's been that way since before Carlo came in. Ancelotti, we were just a team that, unless we could get it into the box to someone who was pretty reliable, like Lukaku or like Calvert-Lewin's ended up being, we're never in games where if our front forward player, our number 9 or whoever was in the number 9 position wasn't in the game, then we just as a team, we're not in the game at all. I can't think of many times that we've won matches over the last 3-4 years where the number 9 was poor and we still ended up managing to come away with a result, which was the opposite of how it used to be under Moyes. We never really had anyone consistently reliable as the striker, and we had other players who'd have to chip in and
did the job. But I think that's
we had other players chipping in to make up for it, like Cahill and Fellaini and Pienaar and a couple of others. And then ever since then Lukaku came in, and then slowly under Lukaku we just became a one-dimensional team where all we did was lump it forward to him. And then ever since he's left, we've just become a team that lumps it forward to Calvert-Lewin a lot of the time. And we had that one year with Carlo where we managed to get Rodriguez and Alan, and we had Dean as well, who used to get the assists. But other than that one year, 18 months under Ancelotti, we've just been so one-dimensional for about 6-7 years, and that's what this fella would bring, Cornet. He'd add another dimension to our attack.
I think that's where the issue I've got with, we need to start getting more dynamic players. I would be all for getting a couple of these quick players in. Don't have to be incredible, but just players who will get Everton fans off the seats, and that in itself can be off the ballot sometimes.
They'll raise the tempo.
Yeah,
they'll raise the tempo of the game, and we all know Everton is like
a high tempo as a result as well.
Yeah, 100%.
It's all
too slow and pedestrian too often, isn't it?
I
And
would
Cornet's not a player who is. There's one thing you can say about Cornet, it's that he's not pedestrian.
Exactly. I would personally go for him and Traore. Maybe if
Yeah,
that
we've been linked
means
with him, haven't we?
if that means missing out on that Gibbs White, maybe, which I'd like Gibbs White, but I think we've got enough players in that position where he plays that we could maybe. I don't know. It's just
We need a centre mid, a sitter, like a typical number 6, and we need a right-sided forward. They are the absolute 2 musts of this transfer window. If we don't get both of them in this transfer window, then I can only see us struggling when the season kicks off. We've got to get those 2, and there's a couple of other positions we need as well. But if we could only get 2 signings this before the transfer window shuts, it's got to be a sitter and a right forward. And Cornet or Traore, either one, are they absolutely perfect? No, they're not. But for the fees that we're getting linked to them for, it would make more sense than it doesn't.
I think the thing for me is obviously Gibbs White we've been linked with for quite a hefty fee. We could probably get Traore and Cornet for the same price put together.
Well, it's weird with that Morgan Gibbs White because we're hearing conflict and stuff. There was something in the Athletic the other day that said, although the club are interested in him, that Kevin Felwell and Lampard, I've kept track of him for a while now. But the Athletic article I read, and I think it was Paddy Boylan's, there was no actual official bid that went in yet. Now, this was on Thursday, Friday, just gone 3 days ago. There was no official bid, yet we're hearing from Sky and a few other journalists on Twitter that Everton have bid 20 million, that's been rejected. Everton have bid 25 million, that's been rejected. Wolves will only take 30. So I don't know. The only person who I absolutely trust on transfers is Fabrizio Romano. And he says that we've had an opening offer knockback. Now, whether this is just all phone conversations where we've kind of said, well, would 25 million work for you? And they've gone no, or whether we've actually submitted something, an actual bid, because there is a difference between just floating a figure during private conversations between like directors of football at each club, or maybe an agent acting as the go-between, and then actually lodging an official bid where the club can just, the selling club, if they're willing to sell, can just sign a bit of paper and then they're going to get their 20 million or whatever it is. So that Morgan Gibbs White, I think that's going to drag on till the final weeks of the transfer window, if not the final day. I think that's going to be this year's, what's the one that, Sissoko. Now that one didn't come off in the end, did it? But we've had other ones that did come off. We got James McCarthy on transfer deadline day. We got Gareth Barry, and we were linked with them for weeks, and then they came in on transfer deadline day. And we've had other examples where we've been linked with players for ages, and then they ultimately didn't come. I just think that's going to be the one that is getting Everton fans like really, really frustrated. That bid, it could happen, it could not, but it's not going to happen before the end of July, I don't think. Morgan Gibbs White. Whereas I think Cornet, apparently that one's very close. That could get announced any day. If his release clause is met and we can agree a contract with him, then for all we know, that could get announced tomorrow or announced the day after.
Yeah, and I think out of all the people who've mentioned, like Traore, and I think Cornet for me would be the one I prefer for that reason that he is left-footed.
Cornet is a better player than Traore, 100% he is.
But I still think both wouldn't hurt in terms of the pace. I think having like more pace we have at the top end.
We need options. Yeah, we need options. They're not identical players, are they? They're both really rapid players, but Traore's got physical attributes that Cornet doesn't have, whereas Cornet
is a bit better technically, I think.
Yeah, it's technically better. He gets more assists, he gets more goals. I think he reads play better. He knows how to use the ball better, whereas Traore is probably just naturally the more athletic of the two, isn't he? But yeah, we need players as a right forward, but we're not going to go and get the new Mo Salah. We're just not. Do you know what I mean? We have to just take what we can get, as long as what we can get makes sense fee-wise. And 17.5 million for Cornet, I think that makes a lot of sense personally. Because he's still young, isn't he? I know I was talking about how he's been around a while, and I was looking into him 4 or 5 years ago because I had him on one of my FIFA teams. But what is he? He's still only mid-20s, I think. Or is he 26, 27?
26, I think.
26, yeah. He's been kind of around for a while. Where was he before Lyon? Can you get that in front of you now?
I thought he come through their academy or something.
Did he? I know he's been at Lyon for a while, but he's from the Ivory Coast, isn't he? So I don't know whether they picked him up from somewhere in else in Europe, but he's just one of those players who you'd think he's older than what he is. If you'd have said to me a year ago when he was getting linked with Burnley and then it ultimately came off, how old do you think that Maxwel Cornet is now? I'd have said that maybe he's 29, 30, but he's actually not. He was 20. I think he's just not long turned 26, so he won't be 27 till next year. I think.
No, he's not 26 until September. He's 25 now.
Oh, he's 25, and he's even younger then, yeah. So.
Oh yeah, Leon bought him from Metz.
Metz, another French team. He's kind of been on the scene for a while, hasn't he, Maxwel Cornet? And he's one of those players at least I thought, I wonder how he'd get on if he ever comes to the Premier League. And judging on his 1 year in the Premier League, he looked like he wasn't a fish out of water at all. He did really well.
Not at all. But yeah, I think he's definitely out of all the wings we've been linked with, I think he's the one I consider making a priority. And in fairness, it looks likely that is the case. Like that he's the one we're pursuing more than any of the others we've been linked with.
Of all the players we've been linked with this summer, this is the one that I'm absolutely confident will happen. I think this is going to happen, this one, because his transfer fee is an open secret, isn't it? His release clause. The club seemed to like him. We got linked with him early on in the summer, and then it went quiet for a while, which makes you think, was that because we were looking at other people and then those deals haven't happened, so we had to go back to the original choice? You don't know, but it's a deal that I think is clearly going to happen unless someone comes in at the last hour and trumps us, because Cornet, I think Everton is about his level, which we have to accept what our level is now, or what we should be aspiring to for the next year, which is just mid-table. I don't like saying that, but if we got a mid-table finish under Frank next year, I think everyone would take that. And Cornet is probably a mid-level Premier League player.
With that in mind, we're going to finish up here. So, question is, would you sign Maxwel Cornet?
Yes. It's just I'm not too sure how we'd use him when we get him, but I think for the fee getting mentioned and what he'd offer to the team, I think it's worth it.
I think we could use either way. I think the fact that we have two options of how we could use him will only make it more appealing to us to get him signed up, because he can do a few different jobs. But I think he'd be a really good sign, and I'd be happy with this. I don't know how great he'll be, but I just think the fact that he can plug a couple of gaps, left-footed again, like I say, I think he's got a bit of pace. I think he's got a lot of things that we need and what we're lacking at the moment. So I think for an affordable fee like that, we should be taking it and running with it, to be honest. Get it done as soon as possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, as I said, he's not the best possible player out there who we've been linked with, but we've got to be realistic. We're not going to go out and get these players who could probably get in top six sides, because they just turn us down flat the minute we come in for them, which is what that Origi apparently do, and he wants to go to West Ham, doesn't he? That striker we've been linked with, the Chelsea kid. Yeah, apparently he's just knocked us right back because he wants to go on loan to West Ham for the season instead of us, regardless of whether we can afford to bid for him or not. Cornet will come to Everton because he'll want to carry on playing in the Premier League, and I don't see many teams better than Everton going in for it because they don't need him. So, yeah, it's just a deal that makes a lot of sense, as you said. He's a left footer. He can plug a lot of gaps. He's got a goal in him. He's really rapid. He's dynamic.
Hard work, it's just versatile as well.
And yeah, it's just things
things we need badly.
Yeah, they're just attributes that the Everton squad is lacking massively. So we just need to get someone in like that and maybe treat them as a short-term answer. I don't imagine Cornet's going to come in and be, an absolute whale beater like Pienaar, where he's still one of the main players in our team 5 years after we've signed him. I don't think anyone should expect that. But if he came in, would he make a difference next season for the better? Yeah, definitely.
All right. So obviously unanimous approval from me and Paul there, but also of course we did a poll on the Toffee Blues Twitter account at Everton Newsfeed earlier on this week. That was on Friday. We asked, would you sign Maxwel Cornet, and 84.3% of you said yes. So again, it's a pretty strong sense of approval for this transfer. So
yeah,
with the backing of everyone here, it seems it's over to Everton. To get it habit of a lifetime and get it done as soon as possible.
Just go and get it done. Yeah, and as I touched on before, of all the deals that seem to be in the fire at the moment, getting cooked, this is the one that I think we're going to pull out, and it is going to happen. We're recording this on Sunday. the 17th of July. This could be announced tomorrow or the day after or any day next week. I think this one will be quite straightforward, to be honest with you. Might be the only deal we do this summer that's straightforward.
Nothing's ever straightforward at Everton, though, let's be quite honest.
No, it never is, but we've got to try and break that habit.
Exactly. There you go, guys. Maxwel Cornet looks like he's very highly thought of by the Everton fan base. Hopefully we get him in. Let us know your opinions on Maxwel Cornet. Drop us a comment below. Give us a like and subscribe for more content. Also check out the store. The link's in the description. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching on the Toffee Blues. We'll see you soon.